Coming up on Our Indiana, we'll be taking a look at a team of talented Hoosiers who are making waves in a sport you may not know much about.
And then we ask a journalist about his thoughts on the IU men's basketball team and their current leadership issues.
As well as keeping you up to date on the placings and scores this past week. That and more coming up on Our Indiana.
Welcome to Our Indiana. I'm Tyler Sorg alongside Imani Keith. We've got a full show ahead with some interesting news in the Hoosier sports world.
That's right, beginning with IU track and field. IU will go into the Big Ten Championships next weekend with some leverage behind them after Saturday's competition. The track and field teams traveled to Notre Dame for the Alex Wilson Invitational. The women's DMR dominated once again, taking the win at the Invite. The team shattered their own school record by a whopping 10 seconds, holding the second fastest time in the Big Ten. The men followed the women's example by winning the DMR with the second fastest time in IU history, as well as becoming the fastest team in the country.
After a pair of home wins, the Indiana women's basketball team suffered a narrow loss at the hands of the Nebraska Cornhuskers Sunday afternoon. It was a tough day for the Hoosiers offensively as they connected on 39% of their shots, 6% lower than their season average. Junior Amanda Cahill recorded her 10th double-double of the season, scoring 14 points and grabbing 11 rebounds. The team will look to bounce back on senior night this Wednesday against the Iowa Hawkeyes in what will be the final game in Assembly Hall for 5 of the Lady Hoosiers.
Coming off of a win, the Hoosier softball team had an unfortunate weekend at the Texas Invitational. They competed against the University of Texas, Louisiana Tech, and the University of South Carolina. The Hoosiers fell to all three of these teams, but are looking to bounce back Friday as they travel to Alabama to compete in the Sanford Classic.
The IU baseball team kicked their season off out west with a doubleheader in Arizona on Friday. The Hoosiers fell to Oregon State in their first game, but came back with a 12-3 rout of Gonzaga in their second game of the day. Then on Sunday, the team took down Gonzaga for a second time, winning 5-1. Earlier this afternoon, the Hoosiers squared off against Oregon State, again losing 4-1. Indiana will have a few days this week to recover before heading south to Boca Raton, Florida, for a 3-game slate against the Florida Atlantic University Owls.
Sunday afternoon, the IU wrestling team faced off against Appalachian State. With 4 consecutive bouts, the Hoosiers sealed the upset against number 18 Mountaineers, 21-12.
The IU women's swim and dive team had a fantastic showing at this past weekend's Big Ten Championships. Sophomore Lily King won 3 individual Big Ten titles and was named Swimmer of the Championship and set a new American record in the 100-meter breaststroke with a time of 56.3 seconds. Overall, the Hoosiers won 9 medals, 8 gold and 1 silver, which was good for a second-place finish, only behind the Michigan Wolverines. The undefeated men's team will take their turn in the Big Ten Championships in Columbus, Ohio, later this week.
After this quick break, we'll take a look at a team of Hoosiers that have been making quite the splash.
We'll be right back with more on Our Indiana.
Hi, I'm Sage Steele of ESPN. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Indiana University.
Welcome back to Our Indiana.
At a school known for its basketball team, there's a lesser-known dynasty surfacing. Our Indiana's Nicole Cressine has the story.
Hockey, basketball, soccer, rugby. Take elements of all of these sports, add some unique components, and you have a sport the Midwest has little exposure to, water polo. Water polo may not be well known in southern Indiana, but at IU, where the women's team is currently one of the top 15 teams in the country, it should be. A game full of excitement and endurance, water polo consists of 4 7-minute quarters during which 6 field players and 1 goalkeeper play for each team. The object of the game is just like soccer. Score by getting the ball in the opposing team's goal. Whichever team has the most goals at the end wins. But water polo is a lot more high scoring and has different positions. Senior captain Bronwyn Smith compares water polo to a sport with a lot of popularity in the Hoosier State.
I know it's described a lot as soccer in the pool, but I think an easier way to describe it is as a more physical version of basketball in the pool. So the center is really trying to wrestle to get open in front of the cage. That's the easiest shot to get, just like basketball. You have a point in water polo and there's a point guard in basketball.
But even the basketball comparison doesn't quite encompass the vigor of water polo.
One of the elements of water polo that sets it aside from a lot of other sports is water, and especially what's going on underneath it.
Players spend most of the game performing a style of treading water known as the egg beater kick, which consists of alternate one-legged breaststroke kicks that propel the swimmer upwards. While on offense, players advance the ball down the field and then attempt to pass or set the ball and eventually score, all within the 30-second shot clock time. IU head coach Ryan Castle explains that the aggressive style of defense in water polo makes this especially difficult.
There's somebody grabbing on you throughout the 30 seconds. So when you think that you've got 5 seconds to rest, there's somebody touching you, trying to put you under the whole time.
Minor fouls occur frequently during a game, and exclusion fouls, which suspend a player for 20 seconds, are also common. The intense sport has been part of the Summer Olympics for over a century, but in the United States, most of the elite programs are located on either coast. The fact that the Hoosiers are able to strongly compete in a place where the hardwood dominates people's attention makes them that much more of a hidden gem. For Our Indiana, I'm Nicole Christine.
The water polo team plays their only home games of the season this weekend with a doubleheader Saturday.
And now, with more on water polo team, Nicole joins us with an exclusive interview with junior goalkeeper Jess Gaudreau.
Amani, I'm happy to welcome IU Water Polo's Jess Gaudreau to our studio. Jess, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
So we were talking a little bit before the show about the different sports that you played in high school, and what really made you stick to water polo specifically?
Growing up, volleyball was always my passion and my favorite sport, but unfortunately I just never grew tall enough to be able to play the position that I wanted to play. So I just stuck with water polo and really enjoyed being in the water every single day, and that's kind of how I just kept playing.
So you reached the collegiate level and you're looking for a school to go to. You know, in the NCAA, water polo in Indiana, it kind of sticks out since the coast kind of rule the NCAA. So what made you decide to come here?
Barry was always, our old coach Barry, he was always such a fan of Canadian water polo players and coming up to Canada and watching us play. So it kind of helped that there were other teammates that I had on the national team that were here, like Shea Fournier, who actually, she did a lot for the Hoosiers, and Shelby Taylor, and I grew up playing with them, and they kind of took me in on the national team when I first started. So it was nice kind of having that same transition when I came here with Indiana.
So you spent a couple seasons here with Indiana, and then you left to go play for Team Canada. So can you walk me through kind of that decision-making process and then your decision to come back to IU?
Mm-hmm. The decisions were actually relatively easy for me because at that time I had told Barry that my ultimate goal was trying to make it to the Rio 2016 Olympics, which unfortunately didn't happen. It would have been nice to come back and kind of had that medal. But coming back was also no question. I loved it here, my two seasons, a year and a half at school. And I just couldn't imagine going back to play water polo anywhere else in the collegiate level.
So you did come back, obviously, and you're coming back to a team with a new coaching staff, a lot of unfamiliar faces, and you're a captain. So what is it like to lead a team that you're not as familiar with?
There are a lot of challenges, especially learning personalities. Everybody kind of has to be dealt with in a different manner. But I think it's kind of helped me as well develop as a leader, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity that Ryan gave me to be the captain. And I think it's kind of worked well for the team because we have 3 captains and we all have sort of our different personalities and dynamics, and we mesh really well together.
So the season's been going pretty well so far. You guys ranked in the top 15 in the country and starting off really strong. So what are your hopes for the rest of the season for the team?
Consistency. I mean, we beat Hawaii. They were number 5 at the time, and we beat other ranked teams. But I think for that to really solidify and be we're having a great season, we have to continue that coming up this weekend, and especially when we go to San Diego and Hawaii.
So beyond college, do you have any plans personally to continue to play water polo? What does after college look for you? I know you've still got some time, but it's got to be a little bit in your mind. So what does that look for you?
Of course.
like
I
for you?
mean, I think my goal again, I'd love to go to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, and maybe play pro after that. I don't know, Italy, that'd be amazing. But I kind of like want to do the school thing as well and pursue my career. So it's kind of, like you said, it's really far in the future. So.
Something to think about,
Yeah.
though, definitely. Well, we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season. And again, thanks so much for spending
you.
time here with us today. Back to you guys.
When we come back, we'll be discussing basketball with Zan Piarli.
And after that, we'll be taking a look at the week ahead with Brad Davis. We'll be right back on Our Indiana.
I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Indiana University.
Welcome back to Our Indiana.
The men's basketball team, as of late, has been plagued by injuries, and after a shaky week, we draw closer and closer to the Big Ten tournament season.
On our news segment, Cream vs. Crimson, Jordan Burroughs will ask Our Indiana's Joe DiBenedetto and IDS reporter Zan Piarli their thoughts on the near future of the team.
Thank you, Tyler and Amani. Welcome back to Cream vs. Crimson. I'm Jordan Burroughs, accompanied by Joe DiBenedetto and Zane Piarli from the IDS. And we're going to be covering all things IU basketball and what's been going on with their season. So, Zane, let's start with you. You're the expert here, and we want to hear what you have to say about this Indiana basketball team. What is going on?
I wish I could tell you it was just one thing, Jordan, but really it's a multitude of things. I mean, you look at the turnovers that they're making, and then just all around, just nothing is going right for this team right now. Obviously, they've lost their last 4, and it's just a lot of things coming together and just not one specific thing. I wish I could put my finger on it, but I think if I were to say the main reason why they're struggling right now is because of the turnovers, and that's really been the case the entire season.
You know, I'm going to agree with Zan on the fact that there is a multitude of things going on. First of all, we started off the season on the wrong foot, Colin Hartman going down. Then we lost OG. We've lost James for some games. But you know what? Coach Tom Crean hit it on the head. It's a lack of maturity. When you come out of a timeout against your rival Purdue and you run some of the plays that they ran in the second half, it's just you don't see a leader on the floor. And that's what's been missing all season is that replacement for Yogi Ferrell. But something that I'm going to pinpoint on is, you know, that coaching is you got to find your leader through coaching and find who's going to be the floor general and make those decisions and make the calls. And for Tom Crean to go out there and play that second half basketball the way he did against Purdue last week, I was flabbergasted, to be honest.
So then let me ask you this. We'll go back to you on this point, Joe. How much accountability can Tom Crean account for? What's Tom Crean's aspect of this? Is it all him? Is it all the team? You said immaturity of the team. Is there any accountability on the part of Tom Crean?
It's absolutely not. It doesn't fall all on Tom Crean. A large portion of it does fall on coaching because you know what? At the end of the day, he's going to be the general of the team. He'll have his assistant generals who are the floor generals, but right now he is the leader. He makes the decisions. He makes the play calls, and that's not falling together right now. The pieces aren't falling together. And yeah, I can't put all the blame on Tom Crean. Losing OG Anunoby was tough. Losing Colin Hartman, just as tough. But he's got to find that leader down there. And we all thought that it might be James Blackman. James Blackman isn't doing much either. I mean, really the leader is Rob Johnson right now, and he doesn't have the skill set to take on that floor.
What about Thomas Bryant? Zan, do you think he's been stepping up at all this season?
Yeah, I do believe Thomas is emerging as a leader. And Joe, like you said, I think leadership is the root for all these problems. I think when I said turnovers was the main issue earlier, but you look at the lack of leadership, turnovers stem from decision-making and basketball IQ. When you don't have the decision-making and basketball IQ that from a good leader and a strong leader, you're gonna have more turnovers. And then that also leads to all other things like defense, scoring from your big three, Thomas Bryant, Robert Johnson, James Blackman Jr. And I think Thomas Bryant is trying to step up and become a leader on this team, But you have to realize this, he's just a sophomore. He's 19 years old. There are older guys on this team that need to take over the role. Like Crean called out his junior guards after Michigan. James Blackman Jr., Robert Johnson, Josh Newkirk. And I feel like they're not really getting that point across, and no one is taking the initiative to step up. Now, I do believe Thomas has increased his leadership, or at least trying to, but he needs some help from his older guys as well.
So you think the IQ of the team and then the immaturity is something we can pinpoint their efforts on this season?
Yeah, I think that is a part of it. But at the same time, you have to take it possession by possession. And although, you can look back at the last possession against Minnesota. James Blackman Jr. misses a box out. His guy gets the offensive rebound, puts it up with less than 3 seconds left, and they lose that game. But it's just simple things throughout the game that they aren't executing on. You can look at the one post-possession like 10 minutes into the first half. And if they don't execute on that, just a simple plays. And while at the end of the day, it is the last possession that people focus on the most, I think it's just the little details throughout the game that they aren't executing on, and that's why they're ending up in the loss column.
That makes sense. Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm going to pinpoint something that Zan said is that, Thomas Bryant is emerging as a leader, but Thomas Bryant was supposed to have a better season than what he's having right now. Granted, he had 23 points against Purdue last week. Until about 5 minutes left in the second half, he only had 1 rebound the entire game. 1 rebound, offensive and defensive rebounds combined. That's not going to get it done. You're a 6'10" power forward. Why are you standing at the arc? It's the play calling, and it's the decision making, and it's the lack of maturity. Like Zan said, you know what? Right now, Thomas Bryant is young. He needs another year at Indiana. In my opinion, every player on this team needs another year at Indiana. But they need to find a coach that can teach Thomas Bryant what to do and how to do it. Because right now, Coach Tom Crean isn't getting it done at the moment.
All right, guys, last question. Give me 3 words right now to describe this Indiana basketball team.
Immature. I don't know. I think there's more than 3 words, Jordan, honestly. I can't pinpoint 3 things because there's a multitude of things, like we just said. I think, and then the basis of it stems from leadership and being immature. I really wish I could give you 3 words, but I can't. I really can't.
All right, Joe, we're going to have to get you next time. Zan, thanks for being a part of our show. Joe, thanks for being on again. I'm Jordan Burroughs. Thank you for tuning in to Cream vs. Crimson.
Fingers crossed that the men are able to shake off their mistakes and stay strong these next couple of games.
Well, the Hoosiers always fight the hardest when it comes down to the wire. Before we sign off here, let's fast forward with Brad Davis and take a look at the week ahead for IU Athletics.
Thanks, guys. Let's take a look ahead and see what IU Athletics has going on in the next week. The IU women's basketball team will close out their regular season this week with senior night on the 22nd over at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Then after that, the Hoosiers go to Champaign before the start of the Big Ten tournament. The softball team will continue their stretch of weekend tournaments, traveling to Alabama for a slate of 5 contests, including 2 against the tournament-hosting UAB Blazers. The Hoosiers will look to bounce back after dropping 4 games last week in the Texas Invitational. It's also officially baseball season. The Hoosiers started their season just last week and will travel to Boca Raton for 3 games against the FIU Owls and their menacing mascot, Owlsley the Owl, a personal favorite. And finally, the basketball team with no margin for error will travel to Iowa City for their only matchup of the season against the Hawkeyes. Then the Hoosiers will come back home for a rematch against the Wildcats, who took down Indiana by 13 back in January. That's it for me. For more information about this week's upcoming events, visit IUHoosiers.com. Back to you guys.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Our Indiana. Join us next week for more IU sports coverage.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Imani Keith.
And I'm Tyler Sword.